Evening campers, I'm Kieran and we are going to discuss Penelope Lively's Moon Tiger. And for a complex book, it's going to have a complex review. I've just finished this about an hour ago and I'm still processing it, but there's a lot to say about it. Moon Tiger by Penelope Lively won the 1987 Man Booker, was shortlisted for the Golden Man Booker, which is a celebration of the best 5 novels over the 5 decades, and predominantly talks about Claudia, who is an old woman lying on her deathbed who wants to, in her own words, write a history of the world and in the process my own. And what could possibly go wrong there, people? I think before I discuss what the book is doing and my personal view on it, like most people, they want to know what a moon tiger is. I've thought about trying to explain this, but I'm just going to have to show you. Yeah, let's move the tripod. Let's just turn that around. So this is a moon tiger, and it's a mosquito repellent. So you burn this end, and as it spirals and goes towards the eye of the tiger, nothing related to the song, is when it ends. The symbolism, therefore, is that we're going to start from this point and spiral towards the centre to where the story ends. I hope that makes sense without spoiling anything. Heads up, she dies. If you would like to argue that her dying in the end is a spoiler, again, old woman in a hospital, dying. It's in the first few pages. It's not what the book is predominantly about. What the book predominantly is about, though, is Claudia trying to understand where she fits in history and how her personal life has intertwined with major events. Claudia is a famous, respected writer who pretty much got her start journaling and corresponding about the Second World War in Egypt and North Africa, which is where I would say the heart of the novel sits in itself, and where the moon tiger actually is explained to the reader. It's interesting to point out that that moment of war actually takes a very small time frame of Claudia's life, but everything seems to spiral in towards that event. I do want to be upfront. That chunk of Claudia discussing her childhood up until war is a slog. I very much had to plough and force myself to pick up this book in order to reach the very much enjoyable and beautiful meditations and reflections of life and memory. I just want to let everyone know that. But those parts do serve a purpose as we understand a bit more about her relationship with her daughter Lisa, which is very estranged, and the awkward relationship she has with her husband. It's very much a marriage that you can tell that both parties didn't really want to engage in as you go throughout the book, but as you get towards the novel, it becomes more sad in that case, and Claudia's own views are very much a rather than sprawling, they become very condensed in that matter. I think Claudia is very much the linchpin. Everything revolves around her, again, going back to the moon tiger image, and she's writing from the third person, so everything, even though it's trying to be broad, there's always a sense that Claudia is writing from a very personal point of view, and that people are saying things and doing things that personally affect her, for it's her history that's intertwined with other people's lives, not the other way round. But the one character who escapes the mold, who escapes the structure and removes Claudia from a solipsistic point of view, is Captain Tom, who is fighting in the war. And while the horrors of war are going on behind them and the beauty of Egypt is being described, Claudia and Tom have a very passionate affair, which is fleeting for Tom becomes missing in action. And Claudia never really has any closure for the majority of the novel. Tom might be missing in person in the physical, but especially in the metaphysical. Tom is very much rife throughout Claudia's life, and for Claudia, there's definitely a disillusion between her public life and her private life. One moment that captures Claudia's dilemma between the public and the personal is that everyone in her life believes that Lisa is the first and only child. However, in Claudia's spewing forth of life, we find out that she had a miscarriage and it was Tom's child. And because it was a fear, she needed to keep it to herself. And only now, in this history of hers and the history of war, she feels that there's a melding of those two, and the ongoing impact of war has not only affected the world but personally has affected her to something that she will carry towards her death. Death doesn't seem to be the despair, it seems to be a rejuvenating aspect of Claudia, and it's only solidified from viewing ancient Egypt to the hubbub of Egypt now. And the looking back on life and the greatness of ancient Egypt is only what Claudia could do through journaling and corresponding her own life within these sleek pages. My worry about doing this review is that it sounds complex, and I want to let everyone know that this is a very complex novel, and Lively is aware of that. I think there's very much times where Claudia will discuss a nuance in a lot of depth and then tangent off to worlds unknown and passions unfound, and you could tell that Lively had fun. The fun does come through, apart from if you take the childhood up until the war bit. That's really slow. It's really slow. I understand why you need that, because it kind of gives a dimension to Claudia and understanding, and the I wouldn't say the unravelling of Claudia. It's kind of the opposite. She starts unravelled and seems to coil herself back in. There's a lot of coiling, there's a lot of cyclical, there's a lot of spiralling. For a title, she has nailed it, because it's captivating enough to make you wonder what it is, but makes sense in so many shapes and forms. I still very much have mixed feelings about the book. I'm torn because I still have mixed feelings about this. It very much achieves what it wants to achieve. I like it. I like it. No, I like it. I'm not torn. I like it. I feel sometimes you read a good book and you're very torn between it. And you don't know why you're torn. I think it's because I haven't had space to let it breathe. But I feel as though by letting it breathe, I'm going to appreciate it a lot more. And even just by standing in front of a camera and talk about it, I'm smiling about how brilliant the parts that I thoroughly enjoyed were, and the topics and the discussions, and Claudia as a character is, it just radiates bliss. I don't know why I feel torn. I don't know why I feel torn about this, because in my head I'm going through what I didn't like about it, but it's all answered in the end. Yeah, I think that's what makes a good book. And maybe you're watching and you've had these moments where you're thinking, I don't think if I like this. If you know any books that's given you that sort of emotion, please do let me know, because I feel as though my favourite books do that. There's a moment where I can't pinpoint exactly where I feel on it. And it's not often a book will get you to do that. Not often a book will get you to do that. I'm going to give this an 8. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And it's my first look into Penelope Lively, and it thoroughly deserved to win. It thoroughly deserved to win. What a book. What a book. I'm just going to leave it at that. What a book.